Albin, what is the most wondrous thing you have ever seen?
I saw ectoplasm once.
Ectoplasm? What is ectoplasm?
It's the mystical substance of ghosts. I saw a spiritualist pull it out of his mouth in Italy.
What did it look like?
Seaweed. What was for you the most wondrous thing you ever saw?
I once saw Greta Schroeder naked.
No. Yes. That beats ectoplasm.
In 1873, British photographer Edward Muybridge used a timed rig of evenly spaced cameras to capture sequential images of a horse in motion. These photos were originally commissioned as a way of getting the perfect action shot of a racehorse, but ended up revolutionizing photography and becoming a seminal piece in the history of film. The owner of the horse was Leland Stanford of Sacramento. The horse's name was Occident. The jockey, a black man, went uncredited. His identity is still unknown. In 1979, Werner Herzog remade the 1922 silent film Nosferatu with megalomaniacal sex pervert Klaus Kinski in the title role. The rats used in this film were reportedly so poorly taken care of in transit that they started to eat each other. In 2009, a trained chimpanzee named Travis, who had appeared in multiple television programs and commercials, attacked Charla Nash, a friend of his human caretaker, Sandra Harold. Travis was experiencing side effects from a mix of Xanax and a medication he had been taking for Lyme disease, and he had snapped after seeing Nash holding his favourite toy, a Tickle Me Elmo. He was shot and killed by police, but not before causing serious damage to Nash's limbs and face. Nash would later appear on Oprah after extensive reconstructive surgery. In 2022, Jordan Peele released his third film, Nope.
Don't look.
Frankly, Count, I find this composition unworkable.
You are going to witness an absolute spectacle.
If at any point during this video you say, why didn't you talk about shut up, stop commenting, stop typing right now, and go watch the video I did with Gus, because that's the prequel to this one. Anyway, movies that are about the power of film kind of suck. It's the same thing for me as like books that are about the power of books. Like, yeah, obviously you think that it's the most important thing in the world. You, the person who gets paid to write books and wrote this book and wants me to read this book. The fact of the matter is, yeah, I guess, like, telling stories is an innately human quality or whatever, but, like, listen, directors, get your head out your asses. Stories don't affect the world half as much as a lot of people think they do, and honestly, the film industry kind of sucks. Like, a lot. A lot of so-called great directors are total assholes. They abuse their cast and crew, and then they hog all the credit in the end when the film comes out. And even when you have a movie that's really good and was a joy to work on, with a great director and a wonderful crew, it might not make its budget back because audiences are stupid. This is why I love Jordan Peele's Nope so much. It's a film made by somebody who clearly loves film, but hates the industry. It hit a lot of the same beats for me as one of my favourite movies of all time, 2000's Shadow of the Vampire, directed by E. Elias Morriga. Both of them are real movie lovers movies that are also big middle fingers to predatory and damaging practices in Hollywood.
A theatrical audience gives me life, while this thing merely takes it from me.
Shadow of the Vampire is a horror film set in Weimar-era Germany that presents a highly fictionalized version of the making of 1922's Nosferatu. In it, F.W. Murnau is portrayed as a domineering, pretentious asshole who, upon meeting real-life vampire Max Schreck, casts him in his vampire movie to add authenticity. Chaos ensues as Schreck starts to go off script, picking off the cast and crew one by one. Nope is a popcorn sci-fi film set on a horse ranch outside of Los Angeles, where a pair of siblings, OJ and Emerald Hayward, find themselves stalked by a flying saucer. They try to get it on camera, hoping to save their stunt horse training business from bankruptcy with the money they'd make from proving that aliens exist, but they soon discover that what they thought was a ship was in fact a living thing. The beast, which they nicknamed Jean Jacket, is territorial, hungry, and it really hates being looked at. Both films are about people who work in the film industry. Both films use a monster to represent a kind of exploitation. Max Schreck, the vampire, played masterfully by king of unhinged character roles Willem Dafoe, represents the kind of nightmarish cast member that Jared Leto has since become the perfect example of. Shrek's monstrosity is interpreted as extreme method acting, even after he starts eating the crew when the cameras are off. In contrast, Jean Jacket, the carnivorous living UFO, represents the way audiences enable exploitation in their search for spectacle. It looks like a giant iris, with an all-consuming pupil that uncritically sucks up everything in its path, be it animal, vegetable, or mineral. It chews people up and spits out anything that it can't immediately digest. The interesting thing about both of these monsters, and why I've chosen to compare them to each other, is that on top of both Max Schreck and Jean Jacket being representative of exploitation, they are both, in their own way, exploited for entertainment. In both Shadow of the Vampire and Nope, we spend a lot of time on the relationship between a dangerous undiscovered creature and the overzealous industry type who tamed it. What makes these movies different to something like King Kong or Jurassic Park, two other movies about exploiting nature for entertainment, is the delusion of reciprocation on the part of the human characters. As OJ says in Nope, you can't tame a predator, you have to enter an agreement with one. The exploitative human characters in Nope and Shadow of the Vampire, Ricky Jupe Park and F.W. Murnau, both erroneously believe that they have entered an agreement with their respective predators. Murnau convinces Schreck to stay on the film by promising him the blood of leading lady Greta Schroeder, while Jupe uses live horses to coax Jean Jacket down out of the clouds to perform in his Star Lasso spectacular. Murnau believes he can control his monster out of narcissism. He's a genius director, so of course he thinks that he can make people and vampires do whatever he wants in the service of his vision. His mistake is thinking that Max Schreck gives two shits about the art of filmmaking. Max just wants to hang out and vibe and eat people. He strings Murnau along, but ultimately knows that he, as the only real vampire on the set of this vampire movie, is unfireable. And because of that, Murnau continues to tolerate his predatory behavior until it affects the quality of the film itself. In contrast, Jupe believes he can control his monster out of naivete. He misread Gordy's choice to spare him as a sign of an innate connection with other living things, not recognizing that while a chimpanzee is occasionally capable of empathy, a whatever the hell Jean Jacket is not. Crucially, Jupe believes that Jean Jacket is a ship, piloted by intelligent beings that he calls the viewers. But even though he tried really hard to connect with them on an empathetic level, the viewers still have no concept of who or what he is outside of an immediate source of vitamins, and he is consumed in the exact same manner as all other people and random garbage in sucking distance. What I really love about both of these films is that they are very subtle. Both films also have a lot to say about spectacle and what spectacle meant for people on either side of a century. Shadow is a period piece set in the early 1920s, when film was a new medium. Filmmakers were still trying to figure out the limits and fighting to have that medium be taken seriously by the general public. Film then was marketed almost entirely on the fact that it was able to capture things that were real. Real locations, real animals, real vehicles, real people, and sometimes real violence. The whole reason why Murnau decides to cast a living, breathing vampire as his movie monster is because he has a single-minded obsession with being as real as possible, thinking it's the only way his work will be taken seriously. Nope is set contemporaneously, in the early 2020s, and spectacle is what drives the characters throughout. 100 years after Nosferatu, spectacle is no longer just about the technology being used to tell the story. It's about generating shock, bombarding the audience with impossible and grotesque images. Talk shows are a perfect example of this search for spectacle, and this film uses it. Emerald is constantly after her Oprah shot, and it's no mistake that Jupe's disfigured ex-co-star Mary Jo is wearing the almost exact same outfit that Charla Nash wore when she went on Oprah.
Shot, the money shot, undeniable, singular, the Oprah shot.
The desire for spectacle is what drives the exploitation at the core of both stories. Whether that's the exploitation of animals or people, particularly women, people of color, children, and people at the various intersections of those categories. In fact, both movies draw lines between the poor treatment of on-set animals and the exploitation of actors. Greta Schroeder is constantly objectified by the men that she works with. Even the ones who don't want to suck her dry like a Capri Sun leer at her and sexualize her, and this is exemplified in the very first shot of the film.
Nice pussy.
That cat is then revealed to be doped up with laudanum to make it easier to manage, which foreshadows Greta's eventual fate, drugged into a stupor so she won't fight back when Shrek goes to town on her jugular. Likewise, Jupe's backstory is defined by his relationship to animals. He, the youngest and only non-white cast member of Gordy's home, is spared in the chimp's rampage. Whether this is conscious on the part of the ape, or because Jupe just simply did nothing to further provoke him, is up to interpretation. But when Gordy goes in for the exploding fist bump, we are meant to understand that this means Gordy and Jupe are the same. They've both been used as props by the adult, human, white, presumably male creators of the show for entertainment. The other interesting point to compare Shadow of the Vampire and Nope on is the perspective that they anchor their stories in. Shadow is told mainly from Murnau's perspective, and throughout the film, we see that he's a complete asshole. He constantly belittles the people who work for him, disregards all warning signs, and generally is the architect of every bad thing that happens in this story. Part of the joy I get from this movie is the fact that I get to watch a shithead white male director go insane and have his entire world crumble around him. The film ends with Murnau giving direction to his dead actors and crew, cranking a camera that has no film left in it, ranting about human inadequacy. While he's very similar to Jupe in some ways, Murnau also is very similar to Antlers Holst, the jaded genius cinematographer that the Hayward siblings recruit to their cause. Both Holst and Murnau take filmmaking deadly seriously, and visually, Holst's death at the hands, mouth, pupil, fussy of Jean Jacket is a really cool inversion of the scene where Murnau films Shrek as he dies, using a hand-cranked camera, much like Holst's. I'm going to call the vampire Max from now on, because I've just realised that all of the comments in this video are going to be Shrek jokes.
I'm the real ogre of Dubrovnik. Now get out of my swamp!
Nope is anchored to people who work in Hollywood, but they aren't big names. They're not actors or directors. They are but humble stunt horse wranglers. If these characters had been in Shadow, they would have been among the crew that Murnau offers up to Max's blood bags. But in this story, they have the spotlight. Just like how Jordan Peele gives the nameless jockey from Muybridge's Ancient Horse gif a name and a backstory, he gives some of the unsung heroes of filmmaking the chance to be center stage. This notion of the unsung heroes of film is visualized beautifully in the shot of OJ wearing his Scorpion King crew jumper, riding Lucky past a row of wiggly boys that deactivate one by one as Jean Jacket flies closer. The placement of the wigglies echoes the timed rig that Muybridge used to capture motion, and the crew jumper's bright colour makes OJ unappetizing to Jean Jacket, much like how general audiences don't usually get excited about crew members the way that they do stars and directors. And ultimately, in contrast to how Murnau's obsession with maintaining total control and generating, say it with me, spectacle, is his undoing, it's the fact that OJ and Emerald work in such a small, specialised field that allows them to take down Jean Jacket. The Hayward siblings are horse people. They've grown up working with animals, so instead of trying to anthropomorphize the alien the way that Jupe does, they try to think like Jean Jacket. They predict its actions based on what they've observed and what they can infer from the behavior patterns of Earth animals, and it works. Finally, both of these movies end with the predatory spectre of exploitation defeated by something more powerful than any weapon: the horror of being perceived. Like Perseus showing Medusa her own reflection, the protagonists of both Nope and Shadow of the Vampire use gaze and perception to their advantage. Both Max Shrek and Jean Jacket are creatures that thrive on anonymity and obscurity. Max, as a vampire, casts no reflection and stays shrouded in darkness wherever possible. Likewise, Jean Jacket passively emits an anti-electric field that makes it impossible to catch on digital camera, and will attack and devour anything that it even thinks is looking at it. Max is ultimately killed by the few surviving crew members opening the door to the soundstage and flooding it with natural light, Murnau continuing to film as the vampire is burned to a crisp in front of him. He is both figuratively and literally illuminating the monster in front of him, and said monster combusts under the pressure. Jean Jacket is killed when Emerald lures it back to the Jupiter's Claim fun park, and lets loose a giant balloon version of Jupe. Seeing a representation of eyes, Jean Jacket attacks and consumes, its internal structure rupturing when the balloon pops in its stomach. And like Murnau, Emerald gets the whole thing on film with the help of a crank-operated mechanical camera used to take giant novelty Polaroids. Both Murnau and Emerald end their respective films getting the impossible spectacle that they spent their whole movie striving for. But while the ending of Shadow is quite bleak, almost everyone is dead except for Murnau, who has lost his mind, the ending of Nope is more hopeful. OJ, Angel, Emerald, and Lucky survive, and it's left ambiguous if Emerald takes her Oprah shot to the bank, or if she's learned her lesson about pursuing spectacle. This difference in ending comes back to my point about perspective. Murnau doesn't win, even though he nominally gets what he wanted, because he's just as much the villain in this film as the vampire is. He was never a victim. He doesn't plan on killing Max to avenge Greta, or the producer, or the DP, or any of the other people that have died. He does it to avenge his movie. He kills Max because Max was too hard to manage, and it ruined his ability to maintain total dominion over the set, which is the only thing that he ever cared about.
I will finish my picture! This is hardly your picture any longer.
Emerald and OJ, on the other hand, were victims. They have a very personal reason to want to kill Jean Jacket. Jean Jacket killed their dad, ate their horses, and spewed blood all over their house. We're rooting for them to make it out alive, and to get their impossible shot, because we want to see these victims turn the tables on the thing that has victimized them. Both films provide a great deal of catharsis in that sense. The ending of Nope is intensely energizing, and, like I said, it's very fun to watch a shitty white male director have a very bad time and experience consequences. Shadow of the Vampire is a stylish, atmospheric little number that I can't recommend highly enough. It was massively ahead of its time in the way it deconstructs and destroys the idea that any amount of suffering on set is worth it for the sake of a good film. It's about how normalized the predation of women was and still is in the film industry, and how often egotistical directors will be praised for enabling abuse. 22 years later, the same themes of spectacle and exploitation that were explored in Shadow were explored again in Nope, only now they've been stretched out and abstracted until they're roughly UFO-sized. It's not just about exploitation and spectacle, it's also about trauma. It's about man's inability to truly conquer nature. It's about how small we are in the cosmic scale of things. It's about monkey. These films make a great double feature because back to back they make a great snapshot of how things have changed and how things haven't in the world of film. And they provide two great perspectives on the same general concept, giving physical form to the monsters of exploitation, both its perpetrators and its passive enablers. The film industry is full of Max Strikes, and they keep getting hired because we're all Jean Jacket.